a bit of a different video. Here I have halfway done. Well, it's not really halfway done. We still have a lot to go. A diamond painting, and yeah, I figured I would work on it while I ramble. While I ramble about a very not difficult but a topic that is very close to me, and it can be somewhat personal, but if anyone hears this and maybe they relate, then I think my job is done. So what I wanted to talk about is the struggle that is growing up undiagnosed autistic. And maybe not just the struggle, maybe I also want to talk about just how it feels for me, and yeah, if even one person listens to this and feels like it's relatable, then that's nice, because that means we're not alone. But well, let's prepare our beads. This one is number 11. I was already doing these. These corresponded to the S in here. So 11S. So these little spots here. And the number is 936. 936. It's a pretty cool number. Okay, let's pour these. So, as I was saying, for me, I always knew that that my brain basically worked differently than other people's. And it was pretty much whenever it came to social stuff, I never really understood social norms. As a child, I was very, very, very talkative, and people didn't how can I put this? People were quick to kind of put me in my place. And they said I was a know-it-all, or what happened to me as well was that I constantly intervened in grown-up conversations, because for me it was always very difficult to get along with people my age. And even now at 23, I get along better with people in their late 20s or early 30s. So, yeah, I was very talkative and I used very big words. I engaged in hyperlexia. I learned to read very, very, very fast. And I was, part of that group of autistic people who, they don't really struggle with the language. Instead, we try to learn as much as we can about language so that we may really express ourselves correctly, thinking that it won't lead to miscommunication. But sadly, I came to learn that even if I did learn how to communicate, and even if I did learn more words so that my feelings could be more eloquently expressed, people were just intent on misunderstanding me, and I would just come across as a know-it-all or as an elitist or all these negative things. So what that did do for me was it put me ahead in school, so very quick in my life, very soon in my life. Oh no, I just dropped. Yeah, see, I'm very clumsy. That also comes with the autism. So that did make me become more advanced in my classes. I learned faster because I don't know, certain subjects for me, especially language and stuff like that, they are very easy for my brain to comprehend. So I excelled in school, and since I excelled in school, I never really got evaluated for anything, and no one ever suspected that I was autistic because I didn't look or act autistic. But in reality, I had just learned. Sorry, I'm trying to flip this little. Okay. I had learned how to mask and how to hide the parts of me that I knew people found annoying. So I stopped talking as much. I stopped getting involved in conversations that I did like or that I did find interesting. Just because I didn't want to seem like I was sticking my nose where it didn't belong. And I pretty much spent my whole teenage years on the internet, where I felt like I could at least be myself, more easily, Okay. But yeah, as I was saying, it was very difficult. Like, my teenage years were just awful. And I never really understood. I struggled a lot with but yeah, I struggled a lot with chronic illness. No, not chronic illness, I'm sorry. Chronic loneliness. I'm sorry, I'm very tired today, and but yeah. I was constantly jumping from one friend group to another, and all the while I was discreetly bullied. I would say. Like, I wouldn't really notice that people in my friend group didn't actually like me. But yeah, that was it. People in my friend group didn't actually like me. And for a while I thought that was just how friendships should go. So I never shared anything I liked with my friends, because I felt like my interests were too weird. I was into Vocaloid and anime and stuff, and this was around 2011 to 2014. So yeah, by that time, especially in Spain, anime and stuff like that wasn't like mainstream per se. So yeah, my friends of that moment, of that point in my life, didn't really like me. But I didn't want to be alone, so I just kind of sucked it up. And like I said, I excelled in high school, so for a very long time that was how I coped. I just studied and got good marks. In that way, nobody ever really wondered if I was doing okay or something like that. But truly, I was very depressed during my high school years because I had to mask at home as well. I felt like I couldn't be myself anywhere. I didn't even know who myself was. And now at 23 is when I'm actually starting to own the fact that, yeah, I may very much be autistic. I haven't had an official diagnosis because they are pretty inaccessible, especially when you are perceived as a woman, as I am. But yeah, even then, even just the act of, identifying as autistic, it made my life so much easier, because now I can advocate for myself, Now I know that some plans just aren't for me, like going clubbing, being in very loud places with very bright lights isn't for me. I now know that it's not bad for me to, need a break from people. Now I know that I have to communicate very clearly with the people that I do love that are in my life, so that we can both be happy in our relationship. Yeah, it was a very difficult journey, because I definitely had some internalized ableism. Like, I thought, for example, I can't be autistic because I do well in class, Like, in my head, since I had a very weird image of autism, I felt like I couldn't be, because I socialized just fine. Which, for me, socializing just fine meant, okay, let's neglect everything that I am, and let's neglect everything that I like, and let's make it all about this person and about what they like, and like, let's just not really talk about myself. And that way it'll be fine. And yeah, I mean, it did help. I did make lots of friends, quote unquote friends, that way, but I soon realized that those people didn't actually know me, but I couldn't really be mad at them because I didn't really know myself. So when I started college, and I started meeting people who were more like me, I realized, okay, now I can be myself, but who is myself, And I started researching, because what's funny is that my family had always said as a joke that I seemed pretty autistic, like in the pejorative sense, because I never really cared much for human interaction, for example. I was always in my own little world, always doing my little repetitive tasks, like this diamond painting. For me, this is absolutely therapeutic. Things like diamond painting, cross-stitching, knitting, anything and everything that's repetitive and, you know, predictable, it's my jam. It helps me relax so much. And yeah, like in my family, it was a running joke, quote unquote joke, that I was autistic and stuff like that. But I never really thought about it like seriously. And then I started researching and I found out that I manifested many of the criteria. I won't speak much about the autistic diagnostic criteria because at the end of the day, I think we still have a long way to go when it comes to research in autism. But from what I saw, I did meet most of the criteria, and so this brought about a very big crisis. If some of you who are watching are also undiagnosed, autistic, or self-diagnosed, or even diagnosed, you know, and maybe you were high masking like I was, maybe still am. I am trying to stop masking, but it's very difficult when it's all you've ever done your whole life. But especially if you were high masking and maybe you were an overachiever, it's truly a crisis to come to terms with the fact that no, you are in fact disabled in some aspects of your life. And you know, for me it was definitely the coming to terms with the fact that I don't have the same energy as everyone else. And things like just going outside and running errands and, you know, just being outside, for me that's a very huge energy expenditure. I'm not even gonna lie, it's very hard for me. And also things like studying, writing papers, in general, everything that's to do with, you know, like adult life and, you know, working, networking, and stuff like that. I had to come to terms with the fact that I was essentially handicapped in that sense, and that it would take me a lot of energy, like double or triple the energy it would take for a neurotypical person to attain these things and to do these things. And for a person like myself who has always been very independent and very, you know, like, oh, I don't need anyone, because of course I had a very hard time keeping friends, so I just adopted the you know, the mindset of, okay, I don't need anybody, to then realize that I would have to rely on people if I wanted to basically, oh no, I screwed up. Okay, let's try to fix it. Oh, okay, alright. That if I wanted to, you know, have a normal life, I would basically just have to cope the best I could. And, you know, in a sense, it was very liberating, because it was the first step towards me creating a life that was more comfortable for myself. Like, not agreeing to plans out of, you know, like, feeling the obligation to, not overexerting myself, not holding impossible standards for myself, because throughout my life I've always held a very impossible standard for myself. And even right now I'm struggling a lot with it. So if you are listening to this and you are also a perfectionist, or you feel like it's precisely because you are autistic, or because you are a woman, or perceived as a woman, that you need to prove yourself, I'm here to tell you that you do not need to prove yourself to anybody, not even to yourself. I think sometimes we get so caught up in wanting to be somebody, you know, or maybe wanting to be seen as more than, well, I talk in my case, you know, for people who may be women or may be perceived as women. We want to be more than a woman. We want to be seen as more than a woman, or more than just a woman. Sorry, I don't want to accidentally sound misogynistic, because I'm truly not. But we get so caught up in being perfect and, you know, like, excelling everywhere and, you know, breaking all the standards, being super diligent, and it causes a great deal of stress. And when you're autistic, you can't just rest your exhaustion off, you know, because it's constant mental fatigue, it's constant mental energy expending. Most people expend mental energy, but it's not to that extent, and maybe they only get very fatigued when they are going through a very stressful point in their lives. But for me, it feels like this is going to sound very dramatic. I promise I'm doing okay, but I'm just describing how it feels like. For me, it feels like I'm always going through a very stressful point in my life. You know what I mean? Like, there's no actual point where I feel like, okay, I'm done, I'm finally okay, I can just move on and go on with my life. I'm constantly stressing about something because my brain never switches off, and maybe I'm not even thinking about something like classes, for example, or I'm not even thinking about something like, life. But I'm like, oh my god, this light is so bright, it's stressing me out. My clothes feel very uncomfortable. The sound of my heartbeat, for example, is making me very uncomfortable. And things like that. And it's a constant battle, to be able to exist with that level of exhaustion. And so, yeah, it was a very big crisis for me to realize that I would have to start making accommodations for myself. And I would have to stop being a doormat. And I would have to start to advocate for myself and for my boundaries. So the good thing about finally acknowledging that I may be autistic was that I was able to better advocate for myself. And not just in public. I mean, like, also with friends and stuff. Because through the years, many of my friendships ended because I was always too direct, or I feel like when people say the typical, look, I'm going to just put it here, okay. When people give the typical excuse of, oh, people just don't like me because I'm very honest, it's like, yeah, most of the time the people who say that are actually assholes. But I mean that I'm honest in a sense that what I think is tactful isn't actually tactful by society standards, So I've always had trouble keeping friendships because if one of my friends was acting a fool, I would tell them, hey, have you thought about not acting a fool? Like, to me this was all perfectly polite. And I've had the bad luck of having friends who didn't really want to actually think critically about themselves, because this is my thing, right? I always tell my friends, and the friendships that I have lasted for more than 4 to 5 years. I'm still very young, so cut me some slack. But for example, my childhood my childhood best friend is also autistic, and our friendship has lasted so long because we were able to talk about whenever we had disagreements. We were able to talk them out, and we are able to always be like, okay, so you've told me this. Do you want me to, just lend a listening ear, or do you want me to give you a solution? And things like that. Our communication is very clear. But some people just don't want to be oh wait, let me rephrase that. Some people only want to be applauded, and they only want to be told how good they are and how great the things they do are. But if you yourself are autistic and you are watching this, you will know that we have crazy pattern recognition skills. And for me, that manifests especially in people, because one of my special interests is actually psychology, and like patterns of conduct. It didn't begin by being a special interest of mine, but yeah, I don't even know where I was going with all of this. But yeah, so since I started studying how people behaved, so that I could know, like, okay, this is normal to say, this is how people react, or this is what would be expected of me to do in a situation like this. I ended up harboring a very good pattern recognition for people who are in it for themselves, people who don't care about you, and they never will. And I don't know why people like us are so, like, it seems like we attract these sort of friendships, but yeah. So yeah, I guess that the only thing I have left to say is that going back to the feeling like you have to prove yourself or something, don't. I'm still trying to get rid of that kind of mindset, but honestly, your value is inherent to you. You are valuable because you are a person that lives on the earth, and you have a life that is worth living, and your life should be comfortable for you. I like to say that, for example, for me, getting out of my comfort zone doesn't work because I'm always outside of my comfort zone. Like, my comfort zone is so freaking small. So if you also feel like that, please know that it is okay to create a life that feels comfortable for yourself. And if that means saying no to plans or being seen as rude or as a hermit, know that it doesn't matter. And the important thing is that you live a life that you like. So whether that be pursuing a career that you feel like will be a good fit for you, like me for example, academia, even though it's very hard to actually stay there. For me, academia is a very good fit because my biggest special interest is literature and analysis. So whether that be, pursuing something, a career that will actually be comfortable for you, or maybe your version of something that is comfortable is, job jumping, so you don't get bored. But I'm one of those neurodivergent persons who loves predictability and just thinking about going all over the place and never having stability, it makes my tummy ache a little bit. But yeah, don't feel ashamed for building a comfortable existence for yourself. And don't be ashamed of, advocating for yourself and advocating for your needs. Like, you aren't being unreasonable for wanting your friends to understand you, for example. You are not being unreasonable for wanting people to understand that you aren't being difficult. You are literally just autistic, and it's something that you cannot change, You are not a bad person because of that. Okay. And yeah, I think now as I get older, I'm just trying to build a life that's peaceful for me, because I feel constantly on edge, and I feel like I'm constantly being, stressed, bombarded with stuff. And it doesn't have to be that way, it really doesn't. So, for anyone out there that may be struggling, maybe you are a bit younger. I'm not old by any means. I'm just 23. I don't know anything about life. But if you are young and you feel like you are struggling, and maybe you feel different, maybe you are already diagnosed autistic and you feel like it will never get better, it does get better, but you have to work for it to get better. You have to create a peaceful life for yourself. It sucks, but no one is going to do the work for you. The good thing, though, about doing the work is that it gets easier as you do it. So it's something that you practice and you keep doing it, and soon enough you feel better and your life isn't as draining, because you created a life for yourself that isn't draining. In that way, when you save up energy from, just creating a life that feels safe for you, you can then invest that energy in the things that actually matter. You know, like traveling, pursuing things you love, being there for the people you love. Just, this is that cliche of you cannot pour from an empty cup. Okay, so it's the same really. You are being selfish in the hopes of having enough energy to be able to help others and be there for others. Or at least that's how I do it, or how I think about it. Like, I'm not being selfish by taking care of myself, because the only person that's always going to be a constant in your life is yourself. So you have to start to be kinder to yourself, treat yourself with more respect, and be like, okay, I deserve rest. I deserve to feel understood by my friends. I deserve to leave friendships that don't understand me, or that even try to misunderstand me on purpose. And yeah, I deserve to be happy. You have to remind yourself of that. You weren't born to spend your whole life suffering, and there are options, and things do get better, but you have to put in the work to know yourself, know what you want, know what you need, and then do exactly those things so that you can have an equilibrium and be happy while also feeling peaceful. Okay, I think we have advanced a lot for today. So, I know this was a pretty chaotic ramble. I'm sorry, I'm pretty burnt out. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video. So, if you are someone who's struggling, just know that you aren't alone. Sorry, that was my dog. Just know that you aren't alone, and that maybe if you are struggling and you feel like a wilted flower, you just have to nourish yourself, and you have to take care of yourself. Please know that it is not selfish to take care of yourself. It is perfectly fine to want alone time. It is perfectly fine to want to be on your own and just do things you like, do repetitive things. It's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine to take time out of being with friends or out of being in public, to take time to actually recharge, And just know that knowing yourself, knowing what you like, what you want, what makes you happy, is the best thing that you will ever do in your life. So don't be afraid of, just doing what you like. Don't be afraid of recharging by doing something even as, simple as diamond painting. That is how we recharge. That is how we start to feel better. And yeah, I hope that this ramble helped you relax and helped you feel a little bit less alone. You know that I'm always there. And well, you are never alone. There are many people who struggle with the same things you do. You just have to find them. And when it comes to making friends and stuff like that, you just have to find your people. Soon enough, you start to get a tribe of friends who maybe struggle with the same things you do. And life does get better. It does get better. You just have to pull through and make it to that moment where things finally get better. You just have to keep fighting and keep taking care of yourself so that you can make it okay. Okay? So, that was it for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, I will see you on the next video. Good night, my dear guest.